Okay, now we're going to move on to question 3. And in this question, it is saying for the following circuit, determine the three mesh equations in standard form. So in this picture, there are the three mesh currents that are labeled I1, I2, and I3. It's just a basic mesh analysis question, so we'll just go ahead and do this as we normally would. So the equation for I1, the mesh equation for I1, starting with the 30 ohm resistor, would be 30 times I1 minus I3, and it's minus I3 because we're focused on the I1 mesh right now. And then it goes through that plus 5 Vx, and then it goes through that 10 ohms, and then you set this equal to 0. And then similarly, we'll do the mesh equation for I2 now, but notice that in I2 there's this fixed 2 amps there, and so we don't have to actually go around this mesh because we know exactly what the current is in this mesh. Specifically, I2 is equal to minus 2 amps, and it's negative 2 amps because this 2 amps goes in the opposite direction as the I2 in the picture. Lastly, we're going to do the mesh equation for I3. So we'll start with the 20 ohm resistor. So it feels the effect of I3, and then we'll subtract out the effect due to I2 since we're focused again on I3 now. Now we'll focus on the 30 ohm resistor. We're going to ignore the fact that it says plus, we're going to ignore the fact that there's a Vx labeled there. We'll do this the way that we know how to do this. So 30, and then the I3 contribution, subtract out the contribution due to I1 for the voltage, and then finally for the 40 ohm resistor, which only feels the effect of current I3. Set that equal to 0. So now we have 3 equations and 4 unknowns. That fourth unknown is this Vx that we were just talking about. So we need a way to characterize Vx in terms of I1, I2, and I3 and use that as our fourth and final equation. So we're going to look in the picture, and again, here's the Vx, and we can characterize that voltage as follows. Since the terminals are labeled this way with the plus sign on the left, we're going to call I3 the positive current, since I3 goes from positive to negative across the leads of this resistor, and I1 will be negative since it goes from right to left, from negative to positive across this resistor. So the voltage across this resistor using Ohm's law is the resistance of that resistor multiplied by the current through it. So the net current through it is I3 minus I1. And again, I1 is negative because it's going from negative to positive across that Vx terminal. So that's our fourth and final equation, and we'll just write this down here along with the rest of them. So Vx is equal to 30 times I3 minus I1. And we'll leave it at that. Later on, after we finish the rest of the question, is when it would be more appropriate to come back here and then to substitute and reduce this into standard form. But at this point, we've got everything we need in terms of the equations to solve everything about the circuit.